The wine glasses were already half empty when I realized my wife was about to destroy me for sport. Lauren sat cross-legged on our cream-colored sectional, her perfectly manicured fingers wrapped around a glass of Pinot Grigio, surrounded by her usual pack of suburban wolves. Crystal, Zoe, and Tasha had arranged themselves like a tribunal, and I was apparently tonight's entertainment. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Andrew needs some honest feedback, Lauren announced, her voice carrying that particular tone she used when she was about to gut someone with surgical precision. We're calling it a truth session. If I get any more improved, I'll disappear entirely, I thought, but kept my expression neutral. I'd learned that survival in this house meant becoming invisible during Lauren's social experiments. Crystal leaned forward, her blonde highlights catching the overhead lighting. She'd always been Lauren's attack dog, the kind of woman who smiled while she sharpened her claws. Oh, this is perfect. Andrew, you know we all love you, right? When women like Crystal started with declarations of love, someone was about to bleed. Sure, I said, settling into the armchair across from them. I grabbed my beer, the only alcohol Lauren deemed appropriate for me during her friend gatherings. God forbid I drink wine like a civilized adult. Zoe giggled, that nervous sound she made when she was about to say something cruel. She was Crystal's lieutenant, always eager to prove her loyalty by throwing someone else under the bus. We just think you could use some guidance. Guidance, I repeated. About what, exactly? Lauren's smile was razor-sharp. Everything, really. Your hygiene, your career ambitions, your performance in certain areas. She glanced meaningfully toward our bedroom, and my stomach dropped. Tasha, who'd been unusually quiet, suddenly perked up. She was the wild card in Lauren's group, theatrical, unpredictable, and rumored to have interesting tastes in romantic partners. Oh, Lauren told us about that thing you do with your mouth when you sleep. The breathing thing? Heat crawled up my neck. You mean snoring? It's more like wheezing, Lauren said, mimicking the sound with cruel accuracy, like a broken vacuum cleaner. The women erupted in laughter. Crystal nearly spilled her wine, Zoe clapped her hands like a delighted child, and Tasha threw her head back with theatrical abandon. Lauren beamed, feeding off their approval like a vampire at a blood bank. And don't get me started on the bathroom habits, Lauren continued, emboldened by her audience. He leaves the toilet seat up, never replaces the toilet paper, and his idea of cleaning the shower is letting the water run over the soap scum. Gross, Zoe wrinkled her nose. My ex used to do that too. It's like they think cleaning fairies live in the pipes. I took a long pull of my beer, using the time to study their faces. Crystal was enjoying this too much, her eyes bright with malicious glee. Zoe kept glancing between Lauren and Crystal, desperate to contribute something equally cutting. Tasha seemed almost bored, as if she'd heard these complaints before. Interesting. What about his job? Crystal asked. Didn't you say he's been stuck at the same level for years? Lauren nodded enthusiastically. 3 years as a junior architect. His boss keeps passing him over for promotions. I think it's because he doesn't have any real ambition. He's content to just exist. That's so sad, Zoe cooed with fake sympathy. My husband got promoted twice last year, but then again, he actually tries. The knives were really out now. I made mental notes of every cut, every laugh, every cruel observation. Lauren had shared intimate details about our marriage, our private life, my personal struggles with these harpies, and they were treating it like prime-time entertainment. The worst part is the closeness, Lauren said, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper that somehow made it more humiliating. He's so predictable. Same position, same duration, same finish. It's like being married to a metronome. Tasha's eyebrows shot up. Really? That's disappointing. A man should have more Creativity. Exactly. Lauren gestured wildly with her wine glass. Tasha gets it. She knows what real passion looks like. The way Lauren looked at Tasha when she said it made something click in my brain. The lingering glances, the inside jokes, the way Tasha always seemed to know things about our marriage that I'd never shared with anyone. Well. Crystal was still talking, something about men who don't pull their weight emotionally, but I'd stopped listening. I was too busy watching Lauren and Tasha exchange a look that lasted just a beat too long. Andrew? Lauren's voice cut through my thoughts. Are you even listening? We're trying to help you here. I set down my beer and stood up slowly. 4 pairs of eyes tracked my movement, waiting for the explosion, the defensive tantrum, the wounded male ego on full display. Instead, I smiled. You know what, ladies? You're absolutely right. I do need improvement. I looked directly at Lauren, my voice calm and steady. I'll fix all that in my next relationship. The laughter faded instantly. Crystal's mouth fell open, Zoe's giggle cut off mid-sound, and Tasha sat back like she'd been slapped. Lauren's face went through several interesting color changes, settling on a shade of red that clashed terribly with her highlights. What did you just say? Lauren's voice was dangerously quiet. I said I'll work on all those flaws you've so helpfully identified, for my next girlfriend. This has been really enlightening. I headed toward the stairs, leaving behind a silence so thick you could cut it with a knife. As I reached the landing, I heard frantic whispers erupting from the living room, but I couldn't make out the words. That was fine. I had other ways of gathering information. I went to my home office and pulled up the architectural plans I'd been working on, a renovation project for a downtown loft. Funny how life worked sometimes. I'd been designing someone else's fresh start without realizing I was about to need one myself. 20 minutes later, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Lauren's friends were leaving, their voices carrying through the thin walls as they said their goodbyes. Car doors slammed, engines started, and then the house fell quiet except for the sound of Lauren moving around downstairs. I crept to the top of the stairs and listened. Lauren was in the kitchen, and she wasn't alone. Tasha's voice drifted up, low and intimate. That was intense, Tasha was saying. Do you think he knows? He can't know, Lauren replied. He's not that observant. Besides, what could he do about it? Maybe we should be more careful. The way he looked at us. Andrew's harmless. He's too passive to actually do anything. That's always been his problem. I smiled in the darkness. Lauren had made a lot of mistakes tonight, but the biggest one was underestimating me. She thought she knew who I was, the passive husband, the underachiever, the man who took abuse with a smile and asked for more. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The next morning, Lauren acted like nothing had happened. She hummed while making her protein smoothie, chatted about her day while applying her makeup, and kissed my cheek goodbye like she hadn't spent the previous evening systematically destroying my dignity for entertainment. I'm showing the Morrison property today, she said, adjusting her blazer in the hallway mirror. Might be late. The Morrison property, I repeated. That's the one downtown, right? She wasn't really listening, too focused on perfecting her lipstick. It's a challenging client, very demanding. I bet it was. After Lauren left, I sat at my laptop with a cup of coffee and started digging. I wasn't looking to hack into anything. I'm not a criminal, and I'm not stupid. But Lauren had always been careless with her digital security, leaving her laptop open, her phone unlocked, her email accessible. It took me less than 10 minutes to find what I was looking for. The text messages were the first clue. Lauren had a thread with someone named T that went back months. The early messages were innocent enough, complaints about work, funny memes, general girlfriend chatter. But as I scrolled deeper, the tone shifted. Can't wait to see you tonight. A has no idea. The hotel room was perfect. You're amazing. I think I'm falling for you. My coffee went cold as I read through months of betrayal, laid out in neat little text bubbles. Lauren and Tasha had been having an affair for at least 4 months, maybe longer. They'd been meeting at hotels, going on weekend trips that Lauren had claimed were work conferences, and apparently having detailed conversations about what a disappointment I was in bed. But the texts were just the beginning. Lauren's email revealed a paper trail of shared expenses. Hotel rooms, dinners, weekend getaways, even couples' spa treatments, all paid for with our joint credit card, the one I'd been too trusting to monitor closely. I screenshotted everything, creating a digital folder that would make any divorce attorney weep with joy. But divorce was just the beginning of what I had planned. My phone buzzed. Pete, my only real friend and the foreman at the construction company that contracted my architectural services, was texting about lunch plans. Rain check, I typed back. Family emergency. It wasn't exactly a lie. My family was about to have several emergencies. I spent the rest of the morning making phone calls. First, to the bank, where I discovered that Lauren had been making cash withdrawals that I'd never noticed, always in amounts just under the threshold that would trigger alerts. Hundreds of dollars at a time, adding up to thousands over the past few months. I'd like to set up individual account monitoring, I told the customer service representative, and I need to understand the process for separating joint accounts. Are you considering a divorce, Mr. Bennett? I'm considering my options. The second call was to my attorney, not the family lawyer Lauren and I had used for our wills and house purchase, but a new one. Someone who specialized in what I was about to need. I want to understand my rights, I told him. Hypothetically speaking, if I discovered my wife was having an affair and using marital assets to fund it, what would be my legal recourse? Hypothetically speaking, he replied with the tone of a man who'd heard this story 1,000 times, you'd want to document everything, financial records, communications, evidence of the affair. The more proof you have, the better your position in any settlement negotiations. And if I wanted to protect my assets before filing? There are legal ways to do that, but you'd need to be careful. Any moves that look vindictive or punitive could backfire in court. The key is to act reasonably and within your rights. I liked this lawyer already. By the time Lauren came home that evening, I had a plan. Not just for the divorce, that was the easy part. I wanted something more satisfying than a legal victory. I wanted Lauren and her little circle of vultures to understand exactly what they'd done, and I wanted them to face consequences that went beyond whatever a judge might order. Lauren was glowing when she walked through the door, her cheeks flushed and her hair slightly mussed, despite her obvious attempts to fix it in the car. How was the demanding client? I asked from the couch, not looking up from my laptop. Exhausting, she said, kicking off her heels. But I think we made progress. I'm sure you did. She paused in the doorway, studying my tone. Is everything okay? You seem different. I looked up and smiled. Just working on some new projects, thinking about the future. That's great, honey. Maybe you'll finally get that promotion you've been wanting. The casual cruelty of it, the implication that my career struggles were somehow my fault, delivered by the woman who'd been stealing from our joint accounts to fund her affair, was almost impressive in its audacity. Maybe I will, I agreed. I'm definitely ready for some changes. That night, Lauren fell asleep quickly, probably exhausted from her afternoon activities. I lay awake beside her, listening to her breathing and planning my next moves. The beauty of my situation was that Lauren had given me everything I needed. The truth session had been her declaration of war, but she'd been too arrogant to realize she was handing me ammunition. She thought I was passive, predictable, harmless. She'd built her entire betrayal on the assumption that I would never fight back, never cause a scene, never do anything that might disrupt her comfortable life. She was about to learn how dangerous it could be to underestimate someone you'd pushed too far. The next morning, I started making my moves. I began with the money. Not anything illegal or vindictive, just a reasonable man protecting his assets after discovering his wife's infidelity. I moved half of our joint savings into a new individual account, documented every transaction, and made sure I had legal justification for every penny. The beauty of Lauren's carelessness was that she'd created a paper trail that made my actions look not just reasonable, but necessary. When someone is stealing from joint accounts to fund an affair, moving money to prevent further theft isn't vindictive. It's prudent. Next, I visited Pete at his construction site. Pete was the kind of friend everyone should have, loyal, straightforward, and completely immune to bullshit. He took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "Your wife?" he asked without preamble. "How'd you guess?" "You've got that look, like someone who just found out their dog's been pissing in their shoes." I laughed despite everything. "Close. She's been pissing on our marriage." Pete set down his coffee and gave me his full attention. I told him everything: the truth session, the affair, the financial betrayal, the months of lies and humiliation. Pete listened without judgment, occasionally shaking his head or muttering curse words under his breath. "What do you need?" he asked when I finished. "Help moving some things, and maybe someone to watch my back when things get ugly." "You got it. When do we start?" That afternoon, while Lauren was at work, Pete and I moved my belongings out of the house. Not everything. I wasn't trying to leave Lauren with nothing, just my personal items, my clothes, my books, and the few pieces of furniture that had been mine before the marriage. I'd already rented a downtown loft, ironically using the same real estate agent who'd helped me design the renovation plans. The space was perfect, modern, secure, and completely separate from the suburban social circle that had become my prison. We worked efficiently, loading Pete's truck with the remnants of my old life. As we carried the last box to the truck, Mrs. Feldman from next door appeared at her fence, her curiosity practically vibrating in the air. "Moving out, Andrew?" she asked with fake concern. "Just some redecorating," I replied smoothly. "Lauren wants to redecorate, and I'm giving her space to work." Mrs. Feldman's disappointment was palpable. She'd been hoping for drama, for a scene she could report to the neighborhood gossip network. Instead, she got a calm, reasonable explanation that gave her nothing to work with. "Tell Lauren I said hello," she said, deflated. "I'll be sure to do that." That evening, I sat in my new loft and composed 3 documents. The first was a letter to Lauren, explaining that I'd discovered her affair and was filing for divorce. I kept it factual, unemotional, and focused on the practical matters we'd need to resolve. The second document was more interesting. It was a detailed timeline of Lauren's betrayal, complete with screenshots of the text messages, copies of the financial records, and a comprehensive breakdown of how much money she'd stolen from our joint accounts to fund her relationship with Tasha. The third document was my masterpiece, a point-by-point response to every criticism that had been leveled at me during the truth session. But instead of defending myself, I'd taken each complaint and reframed it as a reason why Lauren and I were incompatible, why our marriage had been doomed from the start, and why I was actually grateful to her friends for helping me see the truth. "Lauren mentioned my lack of ambition," I wrote. "She's right. I lack the ambition to steal money from joint accounts to fund an affair. I lack the ambition to betray someone who trusts me. I lack the ambition to humiliate my spouse in front of friends for entertainment. I'm working on developing these qualities, but I suspect it will take time." I went through each criticism systematically, turning Lauren's weapons against her with surgical precision. By the time I finished, I had a document that would not only destroy Lauren's credibility, but would make her friends complicit in their own humiliation. The next morning, I sent all 3 documents to Lauren via email. But I didn't stop there. I also sent copies to Crystal, Zoe, and Tasha, along with a note explaining that since they'd all participated in my improvement session, I thought they should see the results of their helpful feedback. Then I sat back and waited for the explosion. I didn't have to wait long. My phone started ringing at 10:30 a.m., Lauren calling from work. I let it go to voicemail. She called again 5 minutes later, then again, then again. By noon, I had 17 missed calls and a series of increasingly frantic text messages. Call me now. This is insane. We need to talk. You can't just leave. We can work this out. Andrew, please, I'm sorry. Just call me back. I deleted the messages without responding and went about my day. I had architectural plans to finish, a new life to build, and a war to win. That evening, Lauren showed up at my loft. I watched from my window as she stood in the lobby, buzzing my apartment repeatedly. When I didn't answer, she started calling my phone, then tried texting, then went back to buzzing the apartment. Finally, I went downstairs. She looked terrible. Her makeup was smeared, her hair was disheveled, and her eyes were red from crying. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Then I remembered the truth session, the months of lies, the stolen money, and the feeling passed. Andrew, thank God. We need to talk. No, we don't. Everything I had to say was in the email. You can't be serious about this. It was a mistake. Tasha and I... It didn't mean anything. I studied her face, looking for any sign of genuine remorse, any indication that she understood the magnitude of what she'd done. Instead, I saw calculation, desperation, and the kind of panic that comes from having your comfortable life suddenly threatened. Which part didn't mean anything? I asked. The affair, or the 4 months of lying about it? The stolen money, or the public humiliation? The betrayal, or the fact that you got caught? I never meant to hurt you. No, you just meant to make me into a joke while you cheated behind my back. Completely different thing. She flinched at my language. Lauren had always hated profanity, claimed it was beneath civilized people. But then again, Lauren had always been a hypocrite. What do you want? She asked finally. Money? The house? What will it take to fix this? You can't fix this, Lauren. You can't fix what you did with Tasha. You can't return the money, and you can't take back the truth session. Some things, once broken, stay broken. So that's it? You're just going to throw away 8 years of marriage? I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that. I turned and walked back into the building, leaving her standing on the sidewalk in the gathering darkness. Through the lobby windows, I watched her get into her car and sit there for several minutes, probably crying, probably calling Tasha or Crystal or one of her other friends for support. Good luck with that, I thought. By now, they'd all received my little care package. Lauren was about to discover just how loyal her friends really were when the spotlight turned on them. The real fun was just beginning. The next few days were a masterclass in watching a social circle cannibalize itself. I didn't have to do anything except sit back and observe as Lauren's carefully constructed world began to collapse. It started with Crystal. She called me directly, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. Andrew, we need to talk. This whole situation is getting out of hand. Is it? I was genuinely curious to hear her perspective. That email you sent, it's not fair. We were just trying to help. Help who, exactly? Because from where I was sitting, it looked like you were helping yourselves to some entertainment at my expense. It wasn't like that. What was it like, Crystal? Explain it to me. She couldn't, of course. There was no way to reframe the truth session as anything other than what it was. A group of cruel women amusing themselves by tearing apart someone they saw as weak and defenseless. Look, she said finally, maybe we got a little carried away. But Lauren's affair, that's between you and her. Dragging us into it isn't fair. You dragged yourselves into it when you decided to participate in my public humiliation. You made yourselves part of this story, Crystal. Now you get to live with the consequences. I hung up before she could respond. Zoe was next, showing up at my office building that afternoon. She looked nervous, fidgeting with her purse strap and glancing around like she expected photographers to jump out from behind the potted plants. Andrew, hi. I was hoping we could talk. About what? About the other night. I think there might have been some misunderstandings. I leaned back in my chair and studied her. Zoe had always been the follower in Lauren's group, desperate for approval and willing to do anything to maintain her position in the hierarchy. Now that the hierarchy was collapsing, she was scrambling to save herself. What kind of misunderstandings? Well, when we were giving you feedback, I don't think you understood that we were coming from a place of love. We care about you and Lauren, and we just wanted to help your marriage. By telling me I'm a failure in bed, by mocking my career, by laughing at intimate details of my private life that my wife shared without my consent? When you put it like that, that's the only way to put it, Zoe. That's what happened. She was quiet for a long moment, probably trying to figure out how to spin the situation in her favor. Finally, she played her last card. What about Lauren? She's devastated. She really loves you, Andrew. This affair thing, it's just a phase. Women go through phases. I laughed, actually laughed, and Zoe's face went pale. A phase? She stole thousands of dollars from our joint accounts to fund her phase. She lied to me for months, humiliated me in front of her friends, and used our marriage as cover while she pursued a relationship with Tasha. That's not a phase, Zoe. That's a betrayal. But if you could just forgive her. Why would I do that? Because that's what good husbands do? I stared at her for so long that she started to squirm in her chair. The sheer audacity of it. The idea that I should forgive Lauren's betrayal because that's what good husbands do was breathtaking in its selfishness. She wasn't asking me to forgive Lauren for Lauren's sake or even for my sake. She was asking me to forgive Lauren so that Zoe's social circle could go back to normal, so she could pretend that none of this had ever happened. Get out of my office, I said quietly. Andrew, get out. She left, but not before giving me a look of pure hatred. I'd refused to play my assigned role as the forgiving husband, the man who would swallow his pride and accept his wife's betrayal for the sake of social harmony. That made me the villain in Zoe's story, the unreasonable man who was making everyone's life difficult by refusing to be a doormat. Perfect. I could work with that. That evening, Pete called with intelligence from the suburban front lines. His wife, Sarah, had been getting calls from the other wives in the neighborhood. Apparently, word of Lauren's affair had spread through the gossip network like wildfire. Sarah says Lauren's been calling everyone trying to do damage control, Pete reported. But it's not working. Too many people saw those emails you sent. Crystal's husband is asking questions about her involvement, and Zoe's been telling people that you threatened her. I didn't threaten her. Sarah figured that. But Zoe's trying to make herself look like the victim. Says you're having some kind of breakdown and taking it out on innocent people. Interesting strategy. It's not working. Most people are on your side. They're saying Lauren got what she deserved, and her friends are just as bad for participating. I smiled. The suburban gossip network was a double-edged sword. It could destroy reputations quickly, but it also had a strong sense of justice. Lauren had violated the unwritten rules of marriage, and her friends had violated the unwritten rules of friendship. The community was turning against them, not because I'd asked them to, but because their own actions had made them pariahs. What about Tasha? That's where it gets interesting. Apparently she's been trying to distance herself from Lauren, telling people that Lauren seduced her, that she never wanted to break up a marriage, that she feels terrible about the whole thing. Throwing Lauren under the bus to save herself. Looks like it. Sarah heard she's been calling around, trying to find out if you're planning to take any legal action against her specifically. I wasn't, actually. Tasha had been a willing participant in Lauren's betrayal, but she wasn't married to me. She hadn't stolen my money or broken any vows. Her only crime was poor judgment and a willingness to sleep with someone else's wife. But Tasha didn't know that, and her panic was creating even more chaos in Lauren's already collapsing world. Let her worry, I told Pete. Fear makes people do stupid things. I was about to find out just how stupid. The confrontation came 3 days later, and it was everything I'd hoped for and more. Lauren and Tasha showed up at my loft together, which was their first mistake. Their second mistake was thinking they could intimidate me into backing down. I was working late when the buzzer rang. The security monitor showed both women standing in the lobby, Lauren looking determined and Tasha looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Andrew, it's Lauren. We need to talk." "We already talked." "Please, just 5 minutes." I could have ignored them, let them stand in the lobby until they gave up and went home. But I was curious to see what they thought they could accomplish by confronting me together. Besides, I had my phone ready to record whatever was about to happen. I buzzed them up. They entered my loft like they were walking into enemy territory, which, to be fair, they were. Lauren tried to take charge immediately, striding into the living room like she owned the place. "This has gone far enough," she announced. "You've made your point. Now it's time to be reasonable." "Have I made my point?" "What point was that?" "That you're angry, that you feel betrayed. We get it, Andrew, but destroying everyone's lives isn't going to solve anything." Tasha hung back near the door, clearly uncomfortable. She was younger than Lauren, probably in her mid-20s, with the kind of dramatic features that suggested she'd been the star of her high school theater program. Right now, she looked like she was auditioning for the role of woman who realizes she's made a terrible mistake. "I'm not destroying anyone's life," I said calmly. "I'm just telling the truth. I thought you valued honesty, Lauren. Wasn't that the whole point of the truth session?" "That was different." "How?" "Because—" She struggled for a moment, probably trying to find a way to explain how her truth-telling was justified while mine was vindictive. "Because we were trying to help you improve. And I'm trying to help you understand consequences. See? We're both helpers." Tasha finally spoke up. "Look, Andrew, I know you're angry at me, and you have every right to be. What Lauren and I did was wrong." I turned my attention to her. "Was it?" "Yes. I should never have gotten involved with a married woman. I should have told her to work things out with you or get a divorce first." "But you didn't." "No, I didn't, and I'm sorry." It was a good apology, sincere, specific, taking responsibility without making excuses. If Lauren had led with something similar, we might have been having a very different conversation. Instead, Lauren rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, don't act like you're some innocent victim, Tasha. You knew exactly what you were doing." I watched with fascination as Lauren threw her lover under the bus. The stress was getting to her, breaking down her ability to maintain the facade of being a reasonable person who'd made a mistake. The real Lauren was emerging, the selfish, manipulative woman who saw other people as props in her personal drama. Tasha's face went white. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. You've been chasing after me for months, sending me those texts, suggesting those hotels. Don't pretend this was all my idea. Are you serious right now? You're the one who kissed me first. You're the one who said your marriage was over in everything but name." "I never said that." "You said it constantly. You said Andrew was boring, that he didn't understand you, that you were wasting your life with him." I cleared my throat. "Ladies, please, don't let me interrupt." They both turned to stare at me, apparently having forgotten I was there. Lauren's face was flushed with anger, Tasha's with betrayal. Whatever alliance they'd formed was crumbling in real time. "This is exactly what you wanted, isn't it?" Lauren said, "to turn everyone against each other." "I didn't have to turn you against each other. You did that all by yourselves. I just provided the pressure that revealed who you really are." "And who are we, Andrew? Since you're such an expert on character." I looked at Lauren, really looked at her, and felt the last traces of love and regret fade away. "You're a woman who betrayed her husband, stole his money, and humiliated him in front of her friends. When you got caught, instead of taking responsibility, you tried to manipulate everyone around you to avoid consequences." I turned to Tasha. "And you're someone who helped her do all of that. then tried to save yourself by throwing her under the bus when things got complicated. That's not, Tasha started. Fair? I interrupted. You're right. It's not fair. It's just true. Lauren was shaking with rage now. You think you're so much better than us? You think you're some kind of saint? No. I think I'm someone who got played by experts and decided to stop being a victim. By ruining our lives. Your lives were already ruined. You just didn't realize it yet. That's when Lauren made her final mistake. She stepped closer to me, her voice dropping to a vicious whisper. You want to know the truth, Andrew? The real truth? I never loved you. Not really. You were safe, boring, predictable, a placeholder until something better came along. The only reason I married you was because I thought you'd be easy to control. I know, I said simply. She blinked, thrown off by my calm response. You… what? I know. I figured it out months ago, probably before you did. The question is, what are you going to do now that your safety net is gone? For the first time since I'd known her, Lauren was speechless. She'd expected her confession to devastate me, to break me down and give her back the power in our relationship. Instead, I'd absorbed it like armor, turned it into just another piece of evidence that I'd made the right choice. Tasha was backing toward the door. I should go. This is between you two. Actually, I said, there is no you two anymore. Lauren, I'll see you in court. Tasha, good luck with whatever comes next. That's it? Lauren demanded. That's how this ends? This ended the night you decided to humiliate me for your friend's entertainment. Everything since then has just been cleanup. They left together, but I could hear them arguing in the hallway as they waited for the elevator. By the time the doors closed, they were shouting at each other loud enough for the entire floor to hear. I poured myself a drink and sat down at my computer. There was one more email to send, one final move to make. But first, I wanted to savor the moment. For the first time in years, maybe decades, I felt completely free. The war was almost over, and I had won. The final act played out over the next 2 weeks, and it was more satisfying than I could have imagined. Lauren's social circle didn't just collapse, it imploded spectacularly, taking several marriages and friendships down with it. Crystal's husband, it turned out, had been suspicious of his wife's girls' nights for months. When he saw my email detailing the truth session and Lauren's affair, he started asking questions about Crystal's own activities. The investigation revealed that Crystal had been having an emotional affair with her personal trainer, complete with inappropriate texts and secret meetings. Their marriage was now in counseling, and Crystal had been forced to find a new gym. Zoe's attempt to paint herself as my victim backfired when several neighbors came forward to contradict her story. Mrs. Feldman, bless her nosy heart, had witnessed our conversation in the parking lot and told everyone who would listen that I'd been nothing but polite. Zoe's husband was furious that she'd lied to him, and their relationship was reportedly under review. But the real drama came from an unexpected source. Lauren's mother, Judith. Judith had never liked me. I wasn't successful enough, ambitious enough, or wealthy enough for her precious daughter. But she liked infidelity and financial theft even less. When she learned about Lauren's affair and the money she'd stolen from our joint accounts, Judith cut off the financial support she'd been providing for Lauren's business expenses. Suddenly, Lauren was facing the reality of supporting herself on her actual income, not the combination of my salary, her mother's subsidies, and the money she'd been stealing from our joint accounts. The lifestyle she'd been living, the expensive dinners, the designer clothes, the spa treatments, was no longer sustainable. Pete kept me updated on the suburban gossip network, which was having the time of its life with the ongoing drama. Sarah says Lauren's been trying to get her old friends back, he reported during one of our lunch meetings. But nobody wants to be associated with her. They're all afraid their own husbands will start asking questions about their activities. What about Tasha? That's the best part. Apparently, Lauren went to Tasha's apartment last week, expecting sympathy and support. Instead, she found Tasha packing. Tasha's moving back to California, says she needs a fresh start. I almost felt sorry for Lauren. Almost. She'd burned every bridge, alienated every ally, and destroyed every relationship in her pursuit of selfish pleasure. Now, she was facing the consequences alone. The divorce proceedings were remarkably smooth. Lauren's attorney took one look at the evidence I'd compiled and advised her to settle quickly and quietly. She got the house, but with the mortgage payments and maintenance costs, it was more of a burden than an asset. I got my freedom, half of our remaining assets, and reimbursement for the money she'd stolen. More importantly, I got my life back. My career, which Lauren had always criticized as stagnant, suddenly took off. The downtown loft renovation I'd designed became a showcase project, leading to 3 more high-profile commissions. My boss, who'd apparently been waiting for me to show some initiative, offered me a partnership track position. "You seem different," he said during our meeting. "More confident, more focused." "I've made some changes in my personal life," I replied. "It's amazing how much energy you have when you're not constantly defending yourself." The social aspects of my new life were equally rewarding. Without Lauren's toxic influence, I was free to develop genuine friendships based on mutual respect rather than social positioning. Pete and I started a weekly poker game that attracted a rotating group of contractors, architects, and other professionals. For the first time in years, I was spending time with people who actually liked me. I even started dating, though I was in no hurry to get serious with anyone. The experience of being desired for who I was, rather than tolerated as a convenient placeholder, was intoxicating. But the real victory came 6 months after the divorce was finalized, when I ran into Crystal at a downtown coffee shop. She looked terrible, tired, stressed, and about 10 years older than when I'd last seen her. Her marriage had survived, but barely, and the experience had clearly taken its toll. "Andrew," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "How are you?" "I'm well, Crystal. How are you?" "Fine, good. Things are good." We stood there for an awkward moment, both of us aware of the subtext. She wanted to apologize or explain or somehow make peace with what had happened, but she couldn't figure out how to do it without admitting that everything I'd said about her was true. Finally, she played her last card. "I hope you know that we never meant to hurt you. The truth session. It got out of hand, but our intentions were good." I studied her face, looking for any sign of genuine remorse, any indication that she understood the magnitude of what she'd participated in. Instead, I saw the same calculated manipulation, the same refusal to take real responsibility. "Crystal," I said gently, "your intentions were never good. You enjoyed hurting me because it made you feel powerful. You participated in my humiliation because it entertained you, and when the consequences came, you tried to save yourself by throwing everyone else under the bus. That's not true? We both know it is. The only difference is that now you have to live with knowing that I know it too." I left her standing there, probably planning her next move in the ongoing drama of her life. But I was done being a character in other people's stories. I had my own story now, and it was just beginning. That evening, I sat in my loft with a glass of wine, looking out at the city lights and reflecting on everything that had happened. A year ago, I'd been a different person, passive, accommodating, willing to accept mistreatment in the name of keeping the peace. The truth session had been meant to break me down, to reinforce my position as the weak link in Lauren's social circle. Instead, it had been the catalyst for my transformation from victim to victor. Lauren had been right about one thing. I had needed improvement. But not the kind she'd had in mind. I'd needed to improve my boundaries, my self-respect, and my willingness to fight for what I deserved. I'd needed to learn that sometimes the best response to cruelty is not forgiveness, but consequences. My phone buzzed with a text from Pete. "Poker game tomorrow night. You in?" I smiled and typed back, "Absolutely." Outside, the city hummed with life and possibility. Somewhere out there, Lauren was probably sitting in her empty house, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. Tasha was starting over in California, hopefully wiser for the experience. Crystal and Zoe were dealing with the ongoing fallout from their choices, and I was free. Free to build the life I wanted, to surround myself with people who valued me, to pursue my goals without constantly defending my worth to people who had never deserved my loyalty in the first place. The truth session had ended exactly as it should have, with the truth. Not Lauren's version of the truth, designed to tear me down and build her up, but the real truth about who we all were and what we all deserved. I raised my glass to the city lights, to new beginnings, and to the beautiful, terrible power of consequences.